Baseball is one of the oldest games in American history, as it is believed to have been invented in 1838 by then 20-year-old Abner Doubleday. During its earliest games, baseball revolved around the matchup between the batter versus the fielders on the other team. The pitcher's role was to throw the ball where the batter could make contact and put it into play, meaning their goal was, believe it or not, to throw the ball so the batter could hit it. Well, this changed in the coming decades as pitchers realized it didn't make sense to pitch this way because it provided the batters with a blatant advantage. From this point on, the age of the strikeout had begun in its very early development. Strikeouts weren't nearly as common in the late 1800s as they are nowadays, but the increase of the pitcher's role in getting strikeouts called for a system to determine what was a ball and what was a strike. With this revolution came the first umpire. His role was to call balls and strikes. Human umpires were effective enough to get the job done in calling a game during this time period, but as we fast forward almost 200 years later to find out the same methods are being used, you have to question its effectiveness. Not only are human umpires extremely outdated, they're also an inconsistent and ineffective method for calling balls and strikes. In the unfortunate situation where an incompetent umpire is in full control of balls and strikes, things have a tendency of getting ugly very fast. When the stakes are high, poor umpiring performance only makes things that much more frustrating. A good example of this comes from last October when the Red Sox played the Houston Astros in the American League Championship Series. Game 4 was played at Fenway Park and senior umpire Les Diaz was behind home plate to call balls and strikes. It was a relatively quiet game until the top of the ninth, when the Astros were threatening to score with runners on base. Red Sox pitcher Nathan Eovaldi was just one out away from working himself out of a huge jam. It was a pivotal point in the season, and the only man standing in the way of getting him out of the inning was Jason Castro, a light-hitting catcher who Eovaldi got into a 1-2 count on, and hooked a perfect curveball that should have been strike 3, but wasn't called by Les Diaz. Video replay shows that the ball should have been called a strike, and Castro should have been out, allowing the Red Sox to get out of the inning, but since Diaz was in charge of balls and strikes, it was called a ball. Promptly, Castro ripped a single into center field 2 pitches later, and the Astros took the lead. They went on to score 7 more runs in the inning, win the game 9-2, and win the series 2 games later.
Astros take the lead here in Game 4.
ESPN's Jeff Passan reported that was the 21st missed ball strike call of the night from Diaz. It's umpiring performances like these that make you wonder, how can we fix the umpiring problem in the MLB? Enter the robo-ump. To many people, robotic umps seem like a good idea. Just ask Nick Punto.
Punto slams his helmet down.
You gotta be kidding me.
Or Earl Weaver.
You're here, and this crew is here just to fuck us! Yeah.
Why do they favor robotic umps? Because ideally it will put an end to all the bad calls that make them so angry. So what is a robot ump? No, it's not an actual robot. It's a metaphor for technologically advanced umpiring thanks to an electronic device called TrackMan. TrackMan systems provide a light at the end of the tunnel for the MLB's umpiring problems. It was tested out this past season in the minor leagues and went pretty well other than a few minor glitches.
TrackMan, a joint venture between Major League Baseball and the independent Atlantic League, where a computer now calls balls and strikes. TrackMan sits high atop the ballpark roof behind home plate and communicates directly with 2 representatives of Major League Baseball via computer, and also with the home plate umpire, who instantly hears ball or strike through an earpiece he's wearing, and that's attached to an iPod on his belt.
How's it work? Good. We see the pitch. Pitch comes in, and Nebius tells us what to call.
Many people have mixed feelings about the robot ump, and many are downright against it. The people who are against it think it takes away from the long-cherished human element of the game of baseball, but that's not the point of an umpire. The point of umpires is to make the correct call, and right now they're not doing that. That's why I think it's time to make the human umpire extinct and bring on the robo-umps once and for all.
This dog. I was not always sold. I'm completely sold now. Electronic strike zone.
Oh, stop.
Where are you on that? It'd be so much fun.
I don't want that.
Why not?
Because I want a human element to it. I want some human element.
But that's the human error part of it.
So what? We live with it. It's not the end of the world. My God, one pitch in one game, and Jimmy got an umpire with.
But you can get better. You can have either it's inside that zone or out, and it's a ball or it's a strike. It's as simple as that. And there's no beefing. There's no arguments.